Well, hello, there we are. My question to you, do you show up in the world as you? Do you dare to be you, even if that means different from everyone else? Well, you're in the right place to get insights on those questions. Hello, Sigrid Kaste here, marketing and visibility strategist. I'm transforming visibility into influence, impact, and high level opportunities with my global virtual expos. And today I've invited Clim Pacheco, public speaker, director at Business Transformation Solutions, and author of Dare to be different, dare to be you, a life journey through goal setting, management, and leadership. Hello, Clim. Great to have you here.
Hello, Sigrid. Great to be here.
Now, I have loads of different questions for you. I hope you are all set to share your insights and give us your time and details from that extensive time that you've been in business and what got you to the point of writing your book. So tell me straight away, daring to be different, is that something you personally have experienced to have to be or want to be different?
Yes, Sigrid. I started my career as an engineer, a hydropower engineer, and loved that career. And I didn't think at the time that I would be aspiring to be anything else. As time went by, many people who I'd managed told me that my leaning was towards management and leadership. So at the time, I thought, why not? But changing careers, especially when you're known as an engineer, and I was overseas at the time, was going to be a difficult task. So I moved countries and came to Australia with the explicit purpose of getting into management because I said, nobody knows me here. Maybe I can create a new me. And that started a whole process of creation or recreation of myself based on dreams as well as aspirations and just wanting to be somebody different because I wasn't going to allow boredom to set in. So I suppose it was a journey of exploration, a journey of life, and my book was written with the purpose of showing people that it can be done.
That's really interesting. I love this distinction here that you have between often people feel like that it just takes them to have to be different, but you chose to be different. Being in a new country, in a new environment, you wanted to be different, also coming away from that original expertise that you had acquired to purposely go into something new and different, showing yourself there. So the book did not come straight away. That took a bit until you came to that after you've been in this new environment. Would I be correct there in assuming that?
That is correct, Sigrid, but just as a background, I decided when I was 29 to change careers, and the book talks about those things. And I said by 30, I would move from engineering to management and hopefully into leadership by the age of 45. And at 45, I'd do something for society, so good for society. Didn't realize at the time it would be education. And that's how I moved into the education sphere. And at 60, I said I would free fall and do whatever I wanted in life. Didn't expect to go much beyond 60, even 72 now. But the
Right.
point is, I then also decided to write my autobiography in three phases. The first one at the age of 30, the second one at the age of 45, and the last one at the age of 60. So it was a plan, a life plan. And so the first and second book were not published because I thought it was too personal. And the third book, I decided to bring in the concepts and theories that I'd worked on and developed and bring it into a book. And I was given advice that maybe not only do I talk about careers, but talk about management and leadership. So the book actually combined a life story with management and leadership and goal setting aspirations for anybody.
I like that you have got this plan behind it, this drive to want to do it. Now, often people set out on something in life, and then when things change, when the outer circumstances change, the environment changes, they can be left at a loss because they were so focused on this one plan, or this, not even a plan, just this one path, and everything gets thrown out. How would you how would you say is a good way in such a situation? Is that the moment to look at a plan, to set out a plan? Okay, now I have to change. I have no other choice. Or is it better to look at planning ahead even before something happens, Clem, in your experience?
I think planning ahead is important, but also going into yourself and understanding yourself first. Who am I? What are my aspirations in life? And then the stage of preparation goes on. I talk in the book, and probably relevant at this stage. I talk in the book about doing a balance sheet, a personal balance sheet. Now, from the very first year that I joined Tata Electric Companies in India, every year on the anniversary of the day I joined, I would do a stock take, like a business stock take, but this is a personal stock take. And I'd ask myself, am I an asset to this organization? Is the organization an asset to me? Am I a liability to this organization? Is the organization a liability to me? And I've done this every year for generations, I think. But the point I'm making is the moment I found that I was more of a liability, or the organization was a liability to me, I thought it's time to start thinking. Now, that's the way I've moved careers. But in the back of my mind was also that landmark 30, 45, 60, broad plan. It's like a vision. Organizations need visions and missions and KRAs and everything else. I thought, why don't we do these things in life for on a personal basis? Why don't you have a vision? Why don't you have a mission? But the most important thing is not only having this vision and mission, but what are you going to do about it and how? And my modus operandi was not only preparing myself through experiential learning, but also going back to studies. And like when I wanted, as an engineer, I had my qualifications in engineering. But when I wanted to go into management, I felt, okay, let me do my master's in business administration. I did my MBA in Melbourne at Monash University. Took me 5 years because in those years it was a part-time 5-year program. But it was the best thing because I joined Public Transport Victoria, a massive organization at the time, 27,500 staff. And I knew that if I was going to get any managerial experience, it had to be in the toughest area
Hmm.
and have a number of people so that you could influence. So I think it's about both preparation as well as education.
Education. And before we come to education, because I know you're doing some great things in that area to younger generations right now, and you have done for a while. Before we come to that, I want to touch on the earning, learning, and giving. You have got this model or framework, a prosperity life work model, I think, as you call it. Now, share some of those insights with us, please. What is it? Where did it come from?
Um, well, at 60, I decided I would free fall, as I said. And at that time, I was general manager in Australia and New Zealand Institute of Insurance and Finance. And we used to set up training frameworks for countries, and it was a great job. I enjoyed it. But I was nearing 60, and I thought, wow, I've got to change. I got to do something different. And I sort of, on the spur of the moment, I thought, okay, it's got to be social and community work. I've got to do some volunteering. And give myself totally to people after my career, also in education, where I did a lot for students and managers right around Australia. So I said to myself, okay. And I woke up in the morning, told my wife, that's it. I'm giving up work. And so she said, oh, okay. And what would that be now? What would it look like? Because she had seen the three transitions I made. And I said, oh, I'm gonna do some volunteering work and give back to the social and community organizations. So he said, oh, that's great, but I don't think you're Bill Gates, are you? And that was really a telling statement because what she said is we didn't have so much money that I could just go straight into it with four kids and everything else. So um, I had to tell her quickly what I was going to do. And with me, even though I articulate very quickly, there's a lot of thought that goes into my moves. And so I said straight off, okay, no, I'm going to be earning for 3 days. Take one day for learning because I'm 60 and technology and everything else relevance was so important, and one day I'd give for volunteering. So that's where the model of earning, learning, and giving came up. And being an engineer, I suppose I needed numbers, so I said, oh, this is the 3 plus 1 is equal to 10. And the idea of a 10 was because it was exponential happiness that I was going to get. So that was a genesis of earning, learning, and giving model. And I thought also, if I'm going to show that the 3-day working model is a viable model, I felt that I had to start my business transformation solutions, with that model in mind. And that's what I did. I started with the 3 plus 1 model and modeled my business on that in 20.
That is fantastic because it comes from a real life, real practical approach. And you have done that, you're doing that. It is not something just in a book. It's in your book, but it's really come from that practical background. Clim, I find that fascinating. Now you're talking about age and the different stages in the life, the different age stages that you've gone through. Let's just bring it to people of the younger age groups as well. So somebody at 30, they would be able to follow the same kind of a scenario that you have if they put their mind to it, set themselves a plan with the idea of whatever it is they want to do, which would then, I would imagine, make it easier when the outer environment changes. And let's face it, things change at lightning speed these days. Everything is in turmoil and, movement all the time. So, how do you think, how important it is for the younger age groups to also think about planning, whether they achieve that goal or that outcome exactly or not? It doesn't really matter. How important in your experience, in your life expertise experience, is it, do you think?
Absolutely important because, as they call it, big, hairy, audacious goals. Are they in business? It's also in personal life. So you might have these big goals that you have, but I first thought I was writing the book for 40 plus because I mean, the genesis of actually moving towards ultimately putting pen on paper was because I realized that there were many of my, colleagues and friends who were being displaced by technology. And at the age of 40, they would look they'd be displaced, restructured, or whatever, and look for full-time work elsewhere, but could not get it. Then they'd look for part-time work and not get it, and finally move into depression. And I thought, why don't I actually show there are ways of moving you know, from a job which you've lost and you start something else. Now, so once I started at the 40 plus, I suddenly realized that, I mean, I was getting a lot of people coming to me, youngsters, and saying, we're really interested in this model of life and planning. And I know that the youth, they move in a lot of industries, they move a lot of jobs compared to my era, I'm the baby boomer era, yet
Yeah.
I've done a lot of change anyway. So I felt they were changing, but were they planning for change or just drifting from one job to another and just enjoying life without a great sense of purpose? So the importance I found is that there is often an identity crisis around 28, 29. I had it. I was wondering, who am I? I was actually born in Uganda, East Africa, very westernized. And my dad actually said, when he retired and went to India, he says, you must come to India in order to get your eastern side. And at that time, I was really resistant to this because I enjoyed the Western way of life. So I started questioning who I was. And as things turned out, I went to India and followed and had a great learning experience because I realized that it's not poverty doesn't define people. It's about true being and spirituality and everything else. So I became a mixture of a Western and Eastern, but I also identify myself more as a global citizen. So by about when I went to the Arabian Gulf and I was doing power transmissions engineering and finding my way, when somebody said to me, Clem, you're not only a great engineer, you'll be a greater manager and leader. I felt okay, I was 28. So I think at around that age, people start questioning, what have I done for the world? And you try to look at big pictures and say, I should be this. And it was always expected when I was young, I was doing extremely well in studies, and everyone thought, this guy's going to go far. And I felt I'd done nothing. I was 28. So, to your question, it is so important for the youth to start early,
Mm.
to think about it, and to prepare for it. Because, especially in this world now, with AI coming in and people losing jobs, it is so important to be a multi-potentialite, someone who can do many things and be ready for doing many things and taking the ball up when it comes to them.
Absolutely agree with you. And I just love how you've said that. So, first of all, let me just do a little recap. First of all, at any age, of course, we can expect change. We don't know necessarily what life holds, what business holds. Change is out there in the environment. Be prepared for it. But when you have a plan or when you know how to plan for it, you're much more flexible, I guess, in a way, is what I'm taking away from your share. You're much more flexible. You have a plan and you think that you think now, okay, I'm not getting to where I wanted to. The plan I had doesn't matter. I put a new plan in place. I find that I could really see how that flexibility would be so good having that because you've planned for it. Now, also, I want to recap on your earning, learning, and giving. I absolutely love that, Clim. 3 + 1 + Y. It just makes so much sense. We do all want to be, useful, for a better word, in the world, to do something good, something valuable that can be our legacy. And I think the 3 + 1 plus, that's just a brilliant example. Let me just check in with you. All of this is in your book, yes?
It is. It's
I can,
certainly,
yeah,
yes.
I can read about that. That's great. Now, I want to touch on something else that you are doing, and you've done that for a while. And you told me a bit about that earlier and before already. You have an opportunity on a regular basis to go and actually talk to young people, high school, I believe it was. Tell us a little bit about that really fantastic connection you have there, where you can share this vast expertise of yours to people at a stage in life that haven't chosen anything yet, but they're just about to. Tell us about that, Clem.
Well, it's the opportunity arose with Melbourne High School, and about 3 years ago, I was called in to talk about careers and career planning, and it was really up my alley. And I felt, yes, I should do this because my relevance too is is nurtured through being with the youth.
Mm.
Because my generation of people have good ideas, and we certainly have done a lot in the world, but the world is changing. So So I had this opportunity to give them a talk, and every year they have the careers night, and it's with parents. So you have the parents and the youth, and so I talk about how the planning, their preparation and everything, and it's wonderful to see how the questions get asked because they are. I mean, this Melbourne High School is actually a great hotbed of intellectuals, really young intellectuals. And, you feel a bit, wow, am I going to be able to give them anything? The point is, yes, you can, because they are also waiting for ideas. They'll make their own decision. At the end of the day, everything that I've done, I know that people will make a decision as to how they will apply it. So with the Melbourne High School people, I talk about the 30, 45, 60 plan. But I also say to them, it might be your 20, 25, 30 plan. Or whatever it is, it's got to be a plan. With the 3+1+1, especially when I talk to adults, I say you can go from 5+0 to maybe 4+1+1 or something. So I say you adapt the concept to
Mm.
whichever way you feel is right. So with the youth, that's what I do, and I do mentoring. And initially, it started with the older generation. I've got now many youngsters who come in, and so not only do I like the opportunity to speak at the school, but more importantly, I'm doing this, on a regular basis with the youth.
I think that is just really practical. It shows that you are doing what you say you're doing. And I would imagine the book being at the back or at the base of this, always available to the youngsters or their parents. And when we talk about the young people, I would venture to say, Clim, you may have a similar experience that I do. Whatever the young people are being told, their responses often trigger in new ideas for me as well. Yes, you're nodding, so I can see that you have the similar experiences. I think that whole mixture of ages is just brilliant, and I think it's something we really want to foster moving forward. Each generation should look at being mixing with any age group and stimulating each other in that. Absolutely love your details and your experience here and sharing a little bit about your book. Coming to the point where this discussion might be the final foot for this discussion, but we will talk more in the future. What comes to your mind that you might like to put out there as a message to the listeners, the viewers of this particular discussion? Is there a point, a sentence, some tip or tips that you would like to leave us with, Clem?
I suppose think of what COVID did to the world. Think of what the impact COVID had on everyone on Earth. For me, that was my pivot point. I decided to give up lecturing because I was not really enjoying the online teaching of management leadership. It's very hard. So I decided to pivot and write my book. And so I pivoted my life from doing things to writing a book, and now having the great opportunity to talk to people like you and others and pass on message. So I think COVID, whilst it might have been a really hard situation, showed us that people can be resilient, number one. People should be also have hope. And there should be people and mentors and all should give them the motivation to keep going and never to say, I can't, I can, and I will get the people. Just on the final point is, people might think that I changed careers and it was easy. It wasn't. It was a lot of preparation. There was things like moving from like number two in the organization right down to being a sessional teacher and stuff like that. So it wasn't an easy journey.
Mm,
But the most important thing is do not think that you have to do it yourself. You have to articulate where you want to be. And
yeah.
I've had some great people, great mentors who have taken me to places I never thought possible. So bank on others helping you to get to where you want to be, but think about where you want to be and be brave enough to say, why not?
Absolutely, a fantastic message to leave our listeners, our viewers with, Clim. Let me recap on that because it's just so valuable to share that. So first of all, let's make a plan. Whatever you think you can do, plan for it. If it doesn't come about, do a new plan. So what, I guess. You have this wonderful idea that you share with others, whatever the age group is, you can do it. There are mentors out there. And I would probably add from my own experience, Clem, and I'm sure you'll agree, ask, just ask, and you will find. Yes, I see you nodding there. So, absolutely that. And lastly, or to finish off for this discussion here, Klim's book, Dare to be Different, Dare to be You, the life journey through goal setting, management, and leadership from a very practical basis. And Clim will be one of our live Meet the Authors live exhibitors in the upcoming virtual expo. You can access that virtually from anywhere. You don't have to travel for that one. And I'm looking forward to seeing lots more of your programs, your support, themes, whatever you have at the expo. Thank you for this discussion today, Clim.
Thank you, Sigrid. Wonderful. Thank you.